まり出した白い闇切り裂く翼になれ
Alright, this is our second to last set of kana. You have been taught so many Japanese characters, and only the bare minimum remain. So it is only fitting that there is a little something different to the sounds. No, there are no sound changes, and it follows the same general rules. Nothing funky is really going to be happening from now on, but there is something you need to remember. This is our introduction to the Japanese R. R's are a very fragile concept when going in between languages. They change all the time. It's not a German R, which is essentially an English R, nor is it a European or Roman R, which trills. Nope, this is very different. It cannot be pronounced these ways because it is not that sound. It's the Japanese R. It's not ra, ri, ru, re, ro, and it's not ra, ri, ru, re, ro. No, it's da, ri, ru, de, and do. This is a very difficult thing to try and explain, but the sound is made almost like an L. You take the tip of your tongue, put it against the front portion of your palate, and release very lightly. Practice. Listen to Japanese people make their R sounds. Watch some anime and pay attention to how they speak. That is a great way to get accustomed to this sound because it's very different from R's in other languages. And now let's get to the actual kana that represent these sounds. This thing that looks quite a bit like a 5 on your screen is da. It's very straightforward. You make that dash up on top, and then you make kind of like the hiragana chi, except that it's smaller and it does not connect to the dash on top. That's all there is to the Hiragana Da. Then there is the Katakana Da. And the Katakana Da is made by making a considerably large straight dash and that big stroke that I don't know how to explain. And that's the Katakana Da. Next up is Ri. This is the Hiragana Ri. You might see it in text with these two strokes completely joined. That's not really the case when you're drawing it. You're going to make a little curve over to the left and a bigger curve over to your right, kind of like an inverse hiragana E. The katakana D is essentially the exact same thing, except that in katakana things are straighter, so it's a straight line down to your left. And it is still a curve to the right, but there's still something straighter about it. Practice that. Okay, good. Now there's the hiragana D. Pay attention. It's one stroke that looks a lot like a 3, a fancy 3, and then there's going to be that curl on the end. Do not forget the curl. This is the katakana D. You make a curve over to your left, and then you make a considerably sharper curve with an almost straight line to the right. Well, it's not straight, but it's very flat. It's not curvy, really. Try and make it sharp. Sharp is a better word, not straight. Here is the hiragana de. It might look familiar because it looks quite a bit like the hiragana ne. But it's not ne, this is de. And in order to make it, you make that straight line down, and you're going to make the same stroke you made in ne, but de does not have a curl, it has a curve on the outside right side. Don't make the curl, otherwise it's ne. Distinguish between your ne and your re. And also make sure that both the curve and the curl are conspicuous, because there is yet another kana that looks like this. This is the Katakana D. Very straightforward. It's kind of like a check mark. And it's essentially the right-hand side portion of the Katakana D, just bigger. This is the Hiragana Doll. Look familiar? It looks quite a bit like D. It's the same exact thing. It's a fancy 3, but this time you don't have the curl. So all it is just easier. And this is the Katakana Doll. Later on, you're going to look at a kanji that looks exactly like this. Essentially, the strokes are not distinguishable. However, it's context that you'll have to look for to determine the two. Do is a very common set of strokes that I suggest you get very comfortable with. You make a line down, then you make that arc to your right, and then you connect them with a third stroke, connecting the two endpoints. Don't just make a square like you normally make a square. Make sure it's 3 strokes, those 3 strokes, in that order. If you don't get used to that, you're going to start screwing up when we get to the kanji, especially the big kanji. And that is ra-li-ru re-ro. Just practice the R sound. Don't worry about the kana so much as perfecting that sound. Alright? Alright. That's it for this video. This is Angel of Crepusculence signing off.